at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday that would change everything. I was flat on my back in a crawl space that smelled like mouse droppings and 21 years of broken promises, troubleshooting why the CEO's $15,000 climate control system was screaming like a jet engine with a death wish. Some consultant back in 2019 had wired it into the same electrical panel as the server room, and apparently nobody thought to check the amperage load. Nobody but me, that is. But I remember everything, every wire, every breaker, every shortcut some contractor took when we expanded the East Wing in 2014. 21 years of keeping this building alive. And at that exact moment, with a voltmeter in one hand and a mag light clenched between my teeth, I had no idea I had less than 3 hours before HR would call me into a conference room to tell me I was redundant. My name is Andrew Sullivan, Andy to anyone who's ever worked alongside me, which used to be just about everyone in this building. I'm 49 years old, and I've been the chief building engineer at this tech company since 2003, back when there were 5 employees, 1 fax machine held together with electrical tape, and dreams bigger than their bank account. These days, they've got 200 employees, Herman Miller chairs that cost more than my truck, and a CEO who thinks HVAC stands for have a very acceptable coffee. That morning started like every other morning for the last 21 years, minus me unlocking the building at 6:47, 23 minutes before anyone else, with the original brass key they gave me back when this place was above a Thai restaurant and we couldn't afford real office furniture. The Navy taught me that attention to detail saves lives. Back in the Seabees, the Navy's construction battalion, we had a saying, "Can do." Didn't matter if you were wiring a field hospital in 120-degree heat or rebuilding a runway under mortar fire, you did the job right the first time because people's lives depended on it. I spent 6 years, from 1992 to 1998, learning how to build anything, anywhere, under any conditions. Electrical systems, HVAC, structural engineering, you name it. When incoming rounds are flying overhead and you're splicing fiber optic cables in a bunker, you learn real quick that there's no room for half measures. Every connection matters. Every detail counts. The guy next to you is counting on your work to keep him alive. That mindset stuck with me when I came back home. Problem was, nobody in corporate America seemed to understand what that kind of precision meant. They just saw a guy in work boots who could fix their problems. I kept that key on a steel ring with 13 others. Each one labeled in my handwriting. Each one a little piece of this building's history that lived in my head and nowhere else. The cleaning crew had left somebody's takeout container in the break room sink. Again, someone from marketing had abandoned sushi in the mini fridge over the weekend. The kombucha had exploded. Not technically my job, not in any contract I ever signed. But guess who scraped fermented tea off the inside of a smart fridge at 7 in the morning? This guy. Some days I felt like the load-bearing wall in this building. Invisible, taken for granted, only noticed when something cracked. There was the time in 2018 when Hurricane Florence knocked out power to half the city. While everyone else was working from home, I spent 14 hours straight in that building, running generators and manually switching electrical loads to keep the servers running. Saved the company about $300,000 in lost data and downtime. My reward? A gift card to Subway and a thanks in the next all-hands email that spelled my name wrong. Or the flood in 2020, when a pipe burst on the 3rd floor over Christmas weekend. Facilities management company said they couldn't get anyone out until Monday. I showed up in my truck, crawled through 3 inches of standing water, and jury-rigged a pump system that kept the whole building from being condemned. Worked through New Year's Eve while my daughter was home from college. Probably the last time I'd see her over the holidays before she graduated and moved across the country. The thank you note from the CEO that time was addressed to Andrew Stevens. I held everything together while they built floors on top of me. And I did it in silence because that's what you do. That's what my old man taught me when I was 19, right before I shipped out to the Navy. He handed me his 1952 Craftsman toolbox and said, "You do the work right, or you don't do it at all." I kept that toolbox in my truck, still had his socket wrenches organized the same way he did. Dad was a Korean War vet, understood what it meant to have standards. That toolbox had more value to me than any plaque they never gave me, or any bonus they never thought to offer. Steven Rodriguez, our CEO, thought I was maintenance. My business card said Chief Building Engineer, but he couldn't tell a circuit breaker from a cappuccino machine. Once, during a board meeting, the lights went out because someone in accounting had plugged in 3 space heaters on the same circuit. While Stephen was panicking about presentations and investors, I was in the electrical room, resetting breakers and explaining to him over the phone that you can't run industrial-grade equipment on office circuits. His response, "Can't you just make it work?" That's the difference between military and civilian thinking right there. In the Navy, you respect the guy who knows how things actually work. In corporate America, they expect miracles and get annoyed when you try to explain why physics doesn't care about their quarterly projections. My inbox had 4,700 unread work orders from people who couldn't change a light bulb without submitting a ticket in triplicate. Marketing needed the conference room temperature adjusted because someone was wearing a sweater in July. Sales wanted the Wi-Fi signal strengthened in the parking lot. It kept opening tickets to have me fix the internet when their router needed a simple reboot. And I handled every single one because that's the job. That's always been the job. It got worse when they brought in Matthew Thompson as the new HR director. Fresh out of grad school, all teeth and buzzwords. Kid wore Patagonia vests bought with venture capital and talked about cultural fit like he'd invented the concept. Probably thought union was a type of caramelized onion. Once asked me where the Ethernet cable went. I told him the same place his performance review was headed if he didn't learn how things actually worked around here. He didn't laugh. The thing about corporate types like Matthew is they see experience as a liability instead of an asset. To him, I wasn't the guy who knew where every wire in the building ran. I was just some old-timer taking up salary that could go to 3 part-time interns with computer science degrees and 0 common sense. I didn't go to fancy business schools. Never wore a suit that cost more than a mortgage payment. But I knew that building, not like a property manager knows a building, but like you know your own truck. Which pipes moaned before a storm, which thermostat freaked out when humidity hit 70%. Where the main electrical panel made that sound like a rattlesnake if you opened it too fast. The young employees started treating me like I was part of the furniture. Last month, some kid from the marketing team, couldn't have been older than 25 minus, walked up to me while I was replacing a burned-out fluorescent ballast and said, "Hey, janitor guy, can you empty my trash can?" Didn't even look up from his phone. I set down my screwdriver, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "Son, I'm the chief building engineer. I keep the lights on so you can see your little TikTok videos." The janitor comes at night. He just stared at me like I'd spoken Chinese. Then he shrugged and walked away, leaving his overflowing trash can right there. That's when I knew things had changed for good. These kids didn't just disrespect me, they literally couldn't see me. I was invisible infrastructure, like plumbing or electrical wiring, only noticed when something broke. The financial pressure was getting worse too. Dad's Parkinson's had been getting progressively bad over the past 2 years. The medications alone cost $800 a month even with Medicare, and he needed help with basic things now: bathing, cooking, remembering to take his pills. I'd moved him into an assisted living place 6 months ago, and even with my VA disability benefits helping out, I was looking at $3,200 a month just to keep him safe and fed. My daughter Sarah was finishing her master's degree at Northwestern, environmental engineering, making her old man proud by actually building things that matter. But graduate school isn't cheap, and she'd already taken out enough student loans to buy a decent house. I'd been sending her $500 a month when I could swing it, which wasn't as often as I wanted. The divorce 3 years ago hadn't helped my finances either. Linda got the house, fair enough, since I was never there anyway, but the alimony payments were killing me. She'd remarried some insurance executive who drove a BMW, but the lawyers said I still owed her for maintaining her standard of living. Meanwhile, I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment above a pizza place and driving a truck with 180,000 miles on it. All of this was running through my head as I watched these corporate kids play with millions of dollars in venture capital money like it was Monopoly cash. They'd spend $15,000 on a climate control system and then act like my $65,000 salary was some massive expense that needed to be optimized. I'd kept this company breathing through power surges, pipe bursts, server room floods, and 4 CEOs worth of terrible decisions. And they just forgot. No recognition, no handwritten thank you notes. Just once after I stayed until midnight to restore power during an ice storm that would have cost them $200,000 in lost server data, the old VP gave me a half-eaten protein bar and said, "You're a saint, Andy. At least he got my name right." That lease, the one that let us squat in prime downtown real estate for a fraction of market rate, I negotiated that back in 2003 when we couldn't get a landlord to return our calls. Company had 5 employees and couldn't even get approved for a credit card. The founder, Daniel Foster sat across from me at a diner and said, "Andy, if you don't co-sign this lease, we'll be working out of my garage. My wife will kill me." Daniel was a good guy back then, rolled up his sleeves, knew everyone's name, understood that the people who kept the lights on mattered. He'd sold his stake to venture capitalists in 2019 and moved to Costa Rica. Last I heard, he was running a sustainable coffee farm and seemed genuinely happy for the first time since I'd known him. I didn't co-sign that lease in 2003. I signed the whole thing, put the lease in my name, used my VA loan eligibility because nobody else could qualify. Daniel promised it was just temporary, just until we got on our feet. Said he'd transfer it to the company once we stabilized. I trusted him. We both forgot to follow up on that promise. And 21 years later, my name was still on every renewal. After that first year, it was always me who handled the lease paperwork, me who dealt with the property manager, me who coordinated the HVAC upgrades, the carpet replacements, the time we had a weird smell in Suite B that turned out to be a dead squirrel in the insulation. They never asked about the lease, never even thought to check. I didn't mind at first. Back then, they felt like family, but like most families, they eventually forgot who kept the lights on. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, a guy they treated like hired help, and I literally owned the building they worked in. Not legally owned, the property management company owned that, but I was the lessee of record. Every month, the rent payment went through accounts I'd set up. Every utility bill had my name on it. Every service contract, from HVAC maintenance to elevator inspections, went through my direct email. I was the invisible infrastructure holding their whole operation together, and they were about to make the biggest mistake of their corporate lives. You ever walk into a room you've spent 2 decades maintaining, and suddenly realize nobody sees you unless the printer jams or there's a power outage? That was me, invisible until things broke. Then suddenly, I was everyone's dad and janitor rolled into one, expected to fix everything with a smile and a can-do attitude. So I kept showing up quiet, competent, reliable as sunrise. That's what you do when you believe in something, when you think loyalty means something, when you still believe that doing good work will be enough. Then came that Monday. HR sent an all-staff email about strategic realignment opportunities, which in corporate speak is like the mob saying, "Let's go for a ride." My gut went cold. I'd seen enough executives cry into their laptops during layoff meetings to know what was coming. I was next, and I wasn't going to cry. The meeting invite came at 4:58 p.m., just as I was replacing a burned-out ballast in the conference room. Subject line: Quick sync with HR. No context, no warning, just a calendar event dropped onto my day like a turd in a punch bowl. I showed up the next morning at 9 sharp, wearing my denim work shirt with the company logo I'd been wearing since 2004 and my polished work boots. Those boots had seen 4 CEOs, 1 office fire, a baby shower that ended in a very messy divorce, and more late-night emergencies than I could count. They were my armor. Matthew from HR was already seated in conference room B, smiling like a guidance counselor about to expel a student. Next to him, some guy from legal I'd never met before. Slicked hair, expensive shoes, and a folder he kept stroking like it contained nuclear launch codes. "Andy, thanks for coming in," Matthew chirped. "We wanted to have a restructuring conversation." That word, restructuring, I'd heard it before, held other people's hands through it, covered their shifts afterward. I knew the playbook. First, the smile, then the folder, then the apology that wasn't really an apology. "We're going in a new direction," Matthew said. "Modernizing operations, bringing in some fresh perspectives, and frankly, updating our approach to facilities management." I stared at him. Fresh perspectives. Like the kid who thought Ethernet cables were wireless, or the consultant who'd wired the HVAC into the server room panel. That direction wouldn't happen to include me, would it?
Silence.
Then the lawyer slid the folder across the table. Inside, a generic severance package with more red tape than a crime scene. 3 months' pay, NDA clause, health insurance until the end of the quarter. Real generous. The letter didn't even get my name right. Called me Andrew J. Sullin. 21 years, and they couldn't spell the name that was on every lease renewal, every service contract, every utility bill that kept their precious startup running. "We're asking for your badge and keys today," the lawyer added, monotone. "Also, any company property in your possession." I took a breath that could have cracked concrete. In the Navy, When something this stupid happened, you had chain of command, you had protocols, you had people who understood that experience mattered. Here, I just had two kids in expensive suits who probably couldn't change a tire if their lives depended on it. I reached into my bag, set the badge on the table like a poker chip. I was done playing. Next, the keys. All 14 of them, labeled in my handwriting from 2004, back when I stayed late to rekey the entire building myself because the old lock system was a security nightmare and they were too cheap to hire a locksmith. "You sure?" I asked, eyes locked on Matthew. He blinked. "I'm sorry, you sure you want these?" I held up the key ring, giving them one last chance to think it through, because once I walk out that door, I'm not coming back to fix your problems. Matthew gave me that HR face. Sympathetic, professional, fake as margarine. "It's not personal, Andy. This is just business, right? Just business. Like the time I worked through Christmas to restore heat when the boiler died and their pipes almost burst. Like the Hurricane Florence incident when I slept in the office for 3 days to keep their servers running. Like every weekend I'd spent on call, every vacation I'd cut short, every family dinner I'd missed because some kid in marketing couldn't figure out why the printer stopped working. I stood up, buttoned my work shirt, and picked up that sad little severance folder. "You just fired the only person in this building who knows where the main water shutoff is," I said. "Good luck with that." I walked out before I could say something that would feel good for 10 seconds and cost me the next 10 years. The sun hit my face like a slap. The sidewalk hummed with people who had no idea they'd just watched a building sign its own death warrant. I didn't cry. Not after 21 years of fixing their mistakes, calming their panicked interns, keeping their precious servers cool while they played with millions of dollars in investor money. They wanted to forget me. Fine, but they'd forgotten too much. I didn't drive straight home. I pulled into a coffee shop parking lot, killed the engine, and sat there for a minute, staring at those keys in my hand. 14 pieces of metal that represented more than 2 decades of my life. Then something clicked in my brain. That same methodical thinking that got me through 6 years in the Seabees. When you're defusing an unexploded bomb, you don't get emotional. You follow procedure. You check every connection. You trace every wire back to its source. And right now, I was looking at the biggest unexploded bomb these corporate kids had ever seen. I called Brian Wilson. Brian was my neighbor's kid, grew up mowing my lawn for $20 in cold lemonade. Now he's a real estate attorney with a Bluetooth headset permanently attached to his skull and a nervous twitch when people say the word arbitration. He picked up on the second ring. "Andy, everything okay?" "No," I said, "but it's about to be. You remember that lease we drew up in 2003? A pause, then a low whistle. "Oh, that lease. Yeah, I remember Daniel Foster's startup. You signed it yourself when they couldn't get approval. Do they know?" Another pause. "Know what?" "That I'm still the lessee of record. That my name is on every renewal, every amendment, every piece of legal documentation that gives them the right to occupy that building." I could hear him typing on his computer. "Andy, please tell me you didn't just get fired." I smiled for the first time that day, not a warm smile, a dangerous one. "They just asked for the keys. So I think it's time I gave them everything they asked for. Hold on, let me pull up the file. Jesus Christ. Andy. Are you telling me they just terminated the guy whose name is on their lease?" That's exactly what I'm telling you, and they don't know. Apparently nobody bothered to check who actually signs the rent checks. Brian started laughing. Not a polite chuckle, but the kind of belly laugh you hear when someone realizes they're witnessing corporate stupidity of legendary proportions. "Andy, my friend, you just won the lottery. How do you want to play this?" My house smelled like WD-40 and old Clint Eastwood movies. My way of staying sane. I dropped my bag by the door, kicked off my boots, and walked straight to the garage where I kept the important things. Not in a filing cabinet. In my father's Craftsman toolbox. Red metal, dented to hell, 1952. Top drawer, under the socket wrenches. The lease. I spread it out on my workbench like a blueprint for revenge. 21 years old, coffee-stained, held together with spite and staples. Original lease agreement. 7 amendments. A receipt for the lobby rug I bought in 2003 before the company could afford real furniture. Even a crayon drawing from Daniel's daughter back when the office was 1 room above that Thai place and smelled like pad Thai in desperation. Page 12, Section 9B. Renewal of lease term shall require written notice from lessee no later than 30 days prior to expiration. I checked the expiration date. August 1st. Today was August 3rd, 2 days late. They hadn't sent an email, hadn't made a phone call, not even a certified letter to the property manager. They were so busy celebrating their upcoming IPO and playing musical chairs with executive titles that they forgot to renew the lease on the building that housed their entire operation. I sat back in my garage chair, and a smile crawled across my face, the kind you wear when you realize the universe just handed you a winning lottery ticket. They just fired the leaseholder, and now they were trespassing. I picked up my phone and started checking. Insurance policy? Still in my name. HVAC service contract renewed last year under my direct email. Cleaning service. They only showed up because I Venmo'd the manager every month out of my own pocket. Utilities routed through a business account I'd opened with the city back in 2005 when the power used to cut out every time someone microwaved popcorn and printed a document at the same time. Everything that mattered still ran through me. I was the invisible infrastructure, and they just asked me to leave. I could have warned them. Could have sent an email with a subject line like, "Hey, you forgot something important." That's what the old Andy would have done. The Andy who believed loyalty was a two-way street. The Andy who thought 21 years of perfect service meant something. But that Andy got handed a severance package with his name spelled wrong after 2 decades of keeping the lights on. So I closed the lease folder. I finished my beer. And I decided, for the first time in 2 decades, to shut up and let them walk off the cliff they'd built for themselves. I wore my good boots to the meeting with Paul Johnson, the property manager, not because I needed to impress anyone, but because they made a solid sound on marble floors. I wanted to be heard coming. Paul looked up from his computer when I walked into his 4th-floor office. He was the kind of guy who had 17 different highlighters on his desk and always smelled like fresh printer toner. "Andy," he said, surprised. "Didn't expect to see you." I smiled. "Just here to clarify some things about the lease." I pulled out my folder and handed him the documentation. Original lease, all 7 amendments, everything pristine, right down to that crayon drawing from Daniel's kid during our 2009 renewal meeting. "I want to confirm something," I said. "There was no written renewal request submitted by July 1st, correct?" He clicked through his computer like it owed him money. No. Not from the company, nothing logged. I assumed they were going month to month while they worked out a new deal. I nodded. Under Clause 9b, that converts to month-to-month tenancy automatically, which means either party can terminate with 30 days' notice. Paul leaned back. His chair creaked like old knees. Technically, yes. I pulled another paper from my bag, thick stock official letterhead Brian had drafted up. "I'd like to formally notify you of lease termination, effective in 30 days. His eyebrows shot up. "Wait. You're terminating it?" "Yep. As the lessee of record. I've already lined up a replacement tenant. They're paying double the current rate." The new tenant was a wellness company called Zenith Health, run by a woman named Jennifer Davis. I'd met her at a farmer's market last year while buying tomatoes. Mentioned the building space casually about 6 months back. She'd been waiting for my call ever since, young, loaded with investor money, desperate for downtown space to install their meditation pods and air purification systems. Paul ran a hand through his thinning hair. "This is going to be messy." "Messy," I said. "Standing up is what they handed me after 2 decades. I'm just returning the favor." Back home, I filed the eviction notice through the county portal, paid extra to expedite. The confirmation email hit my inbox with a satisfying ding. Then, like clockwork, HR emailed me. Subject: Confirmation, return of property. Dear Andy, hope you're doing well. We're reaching out to confirm you've returned all company property, including documentation, keys, badges, and other physical or digital assets. Please respond to confirm. Best, Matthew. I didn't hesitate. Clicked reply all because I knew Matthew loved to CC half the company to make himself look busy. Yes, I typed, including the ones you forgot I had. Hit send and leaned back in my chair. That night, I called Sarah. My daughter was finishing her thesis on sustainable water systems. Turns out the apple doesn't fall far from the tree when it comes to understanding infrastructure. I'd been dreading this call, figuring I'd have to explain that the $500 monthly help might dry up while I looked for new work. Dad, you sound different, she said after I told her about getting fired. You don't sound upset. Sweetheart, sometimes when one door closes, another one opens. And sometimes you get to watch the people who slam the first door walk face first into a wall. What's that supposed to mean? I chuckled. Let's just say your old man learned a few things in the Navy about being prepared for contingencies. 2 mornings later, I stood in my garage with a cup of black coffee and the certified letter in my other hand. Heavy envelope, requiring signature, county court stamp. Plaintiff, Andrew Sullivan. Defendant company occupant, Suite 2001 to 221. Subject, notice of termination and demand to vacate premises. My name in bold at the top, spelled correctly. Across town, the same envelope landed at reception around 9:15 a.m. The property manager had sent it priority mail and emailed a PDF copy for good measure. Standard procedure, 30-day notice. Tenant failed to renew. New occupancy scheduled. Vacate or respond through legal channels. Problem was the receptionist that day was a temp. Name tag said Amber in glitter pen. She probably thought it was junk mail and tossed it in recycling between expired protein bars and a broken laminator. Meanwhile, upstairs in the executive suite, the leadership team was busy admiring their own reflections. IPO talks, branding refreshes. Someone was giving a presentation about disrupting verticals, whatever that meant. Too busy disrupting industries they didn't understand to notice. They'd forgotten to renew the lease on the building that housed their disruption. At exactly 8:03 a.m., the following Monday, Matthew strolled into the building like a motivational speaker, late to his own seminar. Oat milk latte in hand, Patagonia vest zipped up like armor against accountability. By 8:08, he was standing in front of Stephen's office with his jaw hanging like a broken gate. Fluorescent orange eviction notice. Laminated, zip-tied to the door handle. Notice to vacate per vanish, breach of lease terms, 72 hours. The call came at 7:42 p.m. I was organizing socket wrenches in my dad's toolbox because a man needs order somewhere in this world. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen since the Christmas party where he forgot mine. Rodriguez, Stephen CEO. I let it ring twice, 3 times. Picked up on the 4th. Sullivan speaking. He didn't waste time. What the hell is going on? You can't do this. I put him on speaker, poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey, and leaned against my workbench like I was settling in for my favorite ball game. I absolutely can, and I did read your lease. You're evicting an entire company. Do you have any idea what this looks like? The board's losing it. We've got press everywhere. Our investors. I cut him off. Stephen, let me stop you right there. You fired the person who held the keys. All of them. Building, legal, operational. You didn't even ask who signed the lease. We assumed. That's the problem. You assumed about everything. About me, about what I was worth, about what would happen if you threw me away like a used air filter. Silence on the other end. Heavy breathing. You blindsided us, he finally said. No, I responded. I responded to being blindsided. Difference is, I came prepared. Monday morning hit like a falling piano. Down on 6th Street, they were wheeling Herman Miller chairs and half-empty Keurig pods into a rented U-Haul with 1 missing taillight. Matthew wore sunglasses the size of dinner plates. Someone had taped printer paper to the truck. Strategic relocation. Then came the moment. Stephen, tanned, sweaty, completely lost it. A folding chair flew from his hands and smacked the side of the U-Haul with a hollow clang. Someone posted the video within minutes. 3 hours later, it hit every tech blog in the region. I drove by at 3:47 p.m., not to gloat, but to see it finished. The U-Haul was pulling away, 1 taillight still busted. The building stood empty for the first time since 2003. Through the glass doors, I could see Zenith Health's crew already measuring for their meditation pods. Jennifer Davis waved from the lobby. I rolled down my window. All yours, I said. You built something solid here, Andy. We'll honor that. 3 months later, I was consulting for 4 downtown buildings, making double what I made before, setting my own hours. Every contract I signed, I made sure my name was spelled right. Dad's care was covered, Sarah's thesis was funded, and I finally had enough left over to fix the transmission in my truck. That evening, I stood in my garage with a cup of black coffee and looked at the wall next to my dad's photo and my first paycheck from 1981. I mounted a small brass hook. I pulled the original office key from 2003 out of my pocket and hung it there like a trophy. Not as a reminder of what I lost, but as proof of what I built and what I took back. They thought I was obsolete. I just changed employers. 21 years they took for granted. 21 years I showed up, fixed things, kept the wheels turning while they built their dreams on top of my back. They wanted me redundant. I reminded them I was foundational. They forgot I was the load-bearing wall. And when a load-bearing wall walks away, the whole building comes down. Turns out competence never retires. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone stopped seeing, because invisible doesn't mean powerless, it just means underestimated. They thought experience was expensive until they discovered what inexperience actually costs.